Time now for Back Pages Tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. Joining us are the Mirror's chief football writer John Cross and James Olley, the senior football writer at ESPN. Welcome to you both. Let's quickly run through the back pages. The front page of the Daily Telegraph Sports Supplement is a poignant picture of the Kop at Anfield holding up placards which read DJ20 in tribute to Diogo Jota and his brother Andre. But once the brilliant match got underway, the spectre of racial abuse showed itself again. As the Sky Sports website shows here, Bournemouth's Antoine Semenyo forced to make a complaint to the referee, and the repercussions are sure to be felt throughout the game. So there's only really one place to start, which is at Anfield, and that incident 28 minutes into the game, which we must begin with tonight. This just in from the Bournemouth captain, Adam Smith.
It's totally unacceptable. Kind of been shocked, to be honest, that it happened this day and age. It shouldn't be happening. I mean, I don't know how Ants played on, to be honest, and come up with them goals, and just it's totally unacceptable. And if anything, I just feel sorry for Ants in there. You know, it's a little bit down, obviously, and to carry on playing, it's just something needs to be done. And taking a knee and doing this is just, it's not having no effect. So yeah, we'll support him in there, and yeah, hopefully it'll be okay.
28 minutes into a new season, guys, and we're talking about racist abuse. So the look on Antoine Semenyo's face, obviously the reaction there of the Bournemouth captain. I mean, what do you make of it, John?
Shocking, wasn't it, Claire, to be honest? It really felt absolutely shameful on the night. As we were watching it, you know, even in commentary, they were saying, you know, what's happened here? The referee's going over. We couldn't quite understand it. And honestly, it's disgusting. And I do think it was incredibly powerful words there to hear from the Bournemouth captain there, basically saying, you know, he came across as being shell-shocked himself and making the point that you know, whatever the authorities are doing, it's not enough. That a brilliant game like that, who, you know, with Semenyo right at the star of the show, if you like, and putting in such a powerful performance, he was targeted in such a way. It shows that football has still got such a massive problem. This is a showpiece, opening game of the season. I must say, I think on balance, when you knew what was happening and what actually went on, you have to give some admiration, credit to the way that the officials, particularly Anthony Taylor, goes over and deals with it, shuts it down. Semenyo, I think, that, you know, deserves so much credit for instantaneously reporting it to the referee, making an issue of it. Absolutely right to do so. But it really highlights that racism, as he rightly says, you know, whatever we seem to do isn't, I'm afraid, addressing the problem. It's clearly an issue here. I do think the only positive to come out of it, really, is that basically we will talk about it as the back pages drop. I'm quite sure, because obviously don't forget that, you know, tight deadline, 8 o'clock kickoff, they'll be turning around. They will be reflected across the back pages as a moment of shame for the game, for the Premier League. And you only hope that if anything can come out of this, is that basically the Premier League, the authorities, whatever it might be, we shouldn't forget, of course, Matthias Tell was subjected to online abuse this week. It's a problem throughout the game that the game is not dealing with. Yes, it's a societal problem, but honestly, football needs a closer look at it, because honestly, it overshadows glorious nights like this, and it's so unfair on the players involved.
I mean, the reaction of the player was, James, was just, you just could understand the pain he was in, and the character he showed to just battle on in that match was truly amazing. But he shouldn't have to, should he?
Yeah, I mean, no, of course he shouldn't. And he, I mean, what more can he do? You know, the incident has happened. He could have just played on. He could have just tried to ignore it, put it out of his mind. But he did the right thing. He reported it to the authorities. They obviously stopped the game for the period of time within the parameters that the Premier League set. And then he carries on and he scores 2 fantastic goals in the second half. And, you know, and showed such a strength of conviction. But if you want a kind of example of how the game has not moved on in dealing with this, it's 4 years now since the Euro 2021 final, as it effectively was, when the 3 England players were racially abused online. And that led to a change in the legislation which the Conservative government brought in, where they extended the football banning orders to cover online racist abuse. And that was seen at the time as a step in the right direction. And obviously there have been instances at all levels of the game. But we should also acknowledge that this isn't just a problem in England. You think about Vinicius Junior, for example, who suffered extensive racist abuse in Spain in various La Liga matches. But I think when the Conservative government brought that in, that everybody felt, OK, this is a real step forward with dealing with it online. And I think that's created this idea that, well, there's an online conversation around this, but then there are match day going fans who are very different. And as John said there, Matis Tel's obviously already suffered this week. And I was at Thomas Frank's press conference this morning where he talked about how, well, that's not real Tottenham fans. We'll see in the stadium tomorrow that Tottenham fans, the real Tottenham fans, will show Matis Tel a real cheer, give him proper support. But actually, we shouldn't be separating this. We should be punishing people inside and outside the ground far, far firmer than we are now. A 3-year banning order clearly is not enough. The legislation allows for something up to 10 years. And clearly the authorities have got to be looking at that higher end of the scale to put these people off from doing these sort of things.
Indeed. Well, as you say, this will be something that we keep discussing after the opening night of the season is well effectively ruined. But I mean, what a game we had at Anfield tonight. And if we have a look now at the inside of the Telegraph, Mo Salah got the winner, got one of the late goals, but was in tears at the beginning of the game for the tribute to Diogo Jota, which must have played so much on the minds of everybody at Anfield this evening.
Absolutely. I do think if you separate the two aspects, that shocking news story and the football match itself, the football match, played, I mean, it was an incredible game, for Liverpool to go 2-0 up, then to Bournemouth to bring it back to 2-2. And then basically it looked at that stage that Bournemouth were probably arguably the more likely team to go on and win it. And then Liverpool's late show with Chiesa, the most unlikely hero, I think, is the Telegraph called him there. But then also Salah finishing off, and then that show of emotion. And we shouldn't forget, the powerful emotional scenes before the game, the tributes to Diogo Jota after his tragic death and his brother, indeed, in the summer. I do think that's going to have such a defining effect on Liverpool's season, and how Liverpool cope with that will be key, I think, to how they perform. I mean, Liverpool are a club, steeped in, I think, in class and respect. And I do think, look at the way that Salah is moved. We shouldn't forget, I think it was really so powerful in some of the words that, Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville were saying, and Kelly Cates introduced the subject about the toll on these players and the sort of kind of effect that potentially it has on their mental health. This is a friend, not just a teammate, but a friend that they've lost. And basically, trying to cope with that in pre-season. The fans obviously really, really, powerful message to the team. And imagine Diogo Jota's, family looking on and sort of seeing that. I do think that must, while it's absolutely heartbreaking, must hopefully bring some sort of consolation. But it's so much about how Liverpool deal with that through this season. Listen, tonight they dealt with it well, but there are going to be key points, I think, when that emotion is going to be very, very difficult, and it's about how they cope with it. The fans were so supportive and strong tonight. It was really, really powerful, I thought, at Anfield. Terrific.
I mean, how did they cope with it, do you think, James? Because let's face it, they are the heavy favourites to retain their title, but they were unconvincing tonight. Yeah,
I mean, look, I think we forget sometimes because we hold these players up as being celebrities, as superstars. We sort of forget almost that they can have human emotions. That fundamentally they are like us, and it unfortunately it takes a tragedy like this to really sort of bring home that it is a human tragedy first and foremost. These are, people who have lost a colleague, a friend, a workmate, however you want to describe it, and the emotion that was etched on a lot of their faces tonight was it's difficult, and it's going to take time. It's going to take time to process that. And I do wonder, though, Crossie's right that it will become a sort of a narrative during the course of the season, but they can turn that into a force for good. I mean, what better way to mark number 20, the guy who was so influential in title number 20 by winning number 21? And I wonder whether over the weeks and months ahead, whether that will become a theme of Arne Slot's messaging, if it isn't already.
Well, we've had a statement in from Liverpool around the allegation of racist abuse, saying they are aware of it during the game. They condemn racism and discrimination in all forms, saying it has no place in society or in football. The club is unable to comment further, as tonight's alleged incident is the subject of an ongoing police investigation, which they say they will support fully. Just go back to some of the debutants tonight quickly. Who impressed you? On both sides, let's face it.
Well, yeah, I do think Bournemouth have got a hell of an ask, haven't they, basically? I did think that, to be honest, before the game, when you consider that they've lost their goalkeeper, 3 of the regular, members of the back 4, and I wondered how they'd cope. So I actually thought Semenyo was a driving force, absolutely fantastic, wasn't he? I thought Alex Scott played well as well. But, so Bournemouth have got a real rebuilding job. But there were so many new faces for Liverpool, and Etikike, basically, if I can say it, scoring and assisting, and sort of kind of got player of the match, didn't he? And basically was really, lively. I think he's quite versatile. I do think that, Wirtz has got a big season ahead of him. I really like him as a player. I think he's ever so exciting. And basically, you're also looking at 2 new fullbacks. So lots to really catch the eye. It's so rare that you get like a team at the top trying to introduce 5 new signings into the starting lineup straight away. I do think it's a bit of a gamble, but from what I saw tonight, Kanate had a stinker, didn't he? I mean, really, you do wonder whether his mind is perhaps elsewhere, and they'll have to get in another senior sort of centre half. So maybe we've got another one coming. But, I do think it's a bit of a gamble, but I think Liverpool attack it from a position of strength. And I do think they remain, and from what I saw tonight with their new players, it's definitely the team to beat, the best team in the league, I think.
It's a gamble, says John James, but it's been that kind of transfer window, hasn't it? Kind of across the board.
Yeah, I mean, it's a strange situation in that there's probably not been a team last season that was such a deserving Premier League champion, and yet one that was also simultaneously, obviously, in need of a bit of a rebuild. And clearly the hierarchy at Liverpool have come to that conclusion with the money that they've spent. And in many ways, it sort of feels as though a lot of the questions that Arne Slot had to answer last season, how is he going to take Liverpool on? How will he sort of rebuild this team in his own image? Well, he didn't do that last season because they didn't spend any money. They didn't bring anyone in apart from, of course, Chiesa. And he was able to sort of facilitate almost the Klopp team through to its conclusion in a fantastic way. Don't get me wrong, I'm not detracting from the job he did for a second, but it's brought those questions, almost kicked them down the road for 12 months. Of course, he can answer them from a huge position of strength, having won the league. But now we get to see really what kind of mark he can make on this team going forward. And that's, it was promising tonight, I thought, but they were quite open in midfield. You could see how teams can get at them. Might be a few high-scoring games this season involving Liverpool on that evidence.
Thanks very much, guys. We'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll look at more of the sports stories in the morning papers, including this in The Guardian, as Newcastle prepare for the start of the season without Alexander Isak. You're watching Back Pages tonight, and welcome back to ESPN's senior football writer James Olley and the Mirror's chief football writer John Cross. Let's move on to a huge game, guys, on Sunday as Manchester United take on Arsenal. And Mikel Arteta's been digging, James.
Yes. I mean, some would argue that without a centre forward, he's been digging without a shovel for the last couple of years. But yes, he believes they can keep going, keep trying, keep pushing forward, and 3 seconds in a row will become a first place this season. That's the aim. They've spent big again. And I think what he's trying to do here is really reinvent the messaging around the team. I was on their pre-season tour to Asia, and you got a sense of that. They were trying to find different ways of sort of saying, "Oh, we can finish first," without saying we can finish first. So that reaching new heights was something that was one of the popular messages they went for. And I think he's trying to convey to the players, look, there isn't a glass ceiling above you. You can finally break through, win that first Premier League title in more than 2 decades. With Victor Gyökeres, there will be a lot of expectation on him. The one thing I would say about him, of course, is that he is going to slightly change the way that Arsenal play, and that's probably going to be the biggest sort of switch for Arsenal. Can they be more direct? Can they get him in those positions to make him more effective? He's at his best between the centre-backs, running in behind, and it's been a theme of the pre-season tour, actually, where we've seen them try and move the ball a bit quicker to the forward players. And if they can do that and he can hit the ground running, then, we all know that Arsenal's problem over the last couple of years, it's been goals. They drew 14 Premier League games last season. They were creating chances. They weren't taking them. If he's the man to do it, then they're going to go very close.
It's a sort of a match-up, really, isn't it? Seshko against Gyökeres, John.
Yeah, it's almost, look at what you could have won, basically, isn't it, for Arsenal? Arsenal so close to, signing Seshko last summer, of course, and then they clearly were very interested again this summer. Gyökeres has ended up being, 12, 15 million pounds cheaper than Seshko, and Seshko is a bit more raw, younger, but there's no doubt about it. I mean, I think that Seshko, goes into a United team, and their front three, I think now with Mbeumo and also Cunha, suddenly reinvented. I honestly think United could have a really good season, and I think that they've suddenly look a bit exciting. Let's make no mistake about it. I'm at Old Trafford on Sunday. Can't wait for the game. I think it'll be fantastic. But also, it will be that matchup. It will be that determination from Seshko to prove to Arsenal. I thought I was joining you. Honestly, I do think there's been various points over the last year or so where he thought he was going to be an Arsenal player. And, for whatever reason, I think it's very much to do with Gyökeres, the here and now, and hit the ground running. He's a little bit older. He's a bit more polished, perhaps. And there's sort of also, paying that little bit less, which has enabled them to do other things in the market, might still enable them to do more. But, that's the reasoning behind it. But I do think there's lots and lots to prove from both teams there. I do. The second strand of Arteta's quotes was going on about the points tally again, wasn't it? About, over the last 3 years, we've, won sort of kind of more than anyone else in terms of points tally. Honestly, that's becoming tiresome, really, in my view, simply because it's all about the season. I mean, we all know the rules. It goes from August to May. What you do over the calendar year really doesn't count. Yes, it shows you consistency, but if you want to win the title, we all know that you've got to get the most points in a season. That's Arsenal's challenge, and trying to deflect and sort of say how good we've been over a year or so just doesn't matter. Now's time to deliver, I think, for Arsenal.
Charlotte Dunker's done a piece in the Times about the rebuild under Amorim, James. I mean, it's a lot of money spent just to cancel the noise that that's what he wants to do. But he is targeting Europe.
Yeah, and he should be. I mean, they have a huge advantage in that they don't play European football at all. I know, obviously, they'd rather be in it with the revenue and the prestige and everything that comes with that. But they have to look at Chelsea a few years ago under Antonio Conte when they finished 10th and then they won the league the following season without European football. They were able to, with a back three, by the way, they were able to kind of, drill themselves every week, play one game a week. Availability was not a problem for them because the players weren't overloaded with matches. And that, I think, is the inspiration they should draw from. But, I mean, I take Cross's point about the front three, but I would still look at that midfield and think, well, if that's the front three, that means Bruno Fernandes has to play in central midfield. Who is going to play alongside him? And whoever that is has got to be Superman to get around the pitch and do all the defensive work that team needs to be properly balanced. Ugarte was out of favour at the end of last season. Kobbie Mainoo similarly so. You're probably looking at Casemiro maybe to play that holding midfield role, and we all know the debate that's been raging about him for the last couple of years. So, I mean, there's a lot of talk about Carlos Baleba, very expensive deal to do from Brighton. I think the two clubs are quite a long way apart in their valuations of the player at this stage, but you can see how he could fit in and really become a game changer for United and really balance up that midfield. But I do sort of think when we were talking earlier about how Arsenal are playing a bit more, trying to play a bit more direct, you can see how open Manchester United could be if they lose the ball and get carved through in midfield. That would be a pretty big concern for me if I was following Manchester United, I have to say. But yeah, I mean, look, they've spent the money. They can't keep spending money and keep failing. At some point, they have to get it right. And Amorim's under a little bit of pressure. He had a free pass really last season, coming in the middle of the season, and often complained that he had no time to work with the players. Well, he has now.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so much to talk about because of the new season, but I really want to get to this Newcastle story. Isak not available tomorrow, and Eddie Howe saying it is now out of his hands. I mean, what do you make of this whole saga? Where's the end, John?
Oh, it's an interesting choice of words, Claire, to be honest with you. Not in my hands. You know, he won't be in the squad. He couldn't be completely assuring, could he, about where he would be at the end of the window. I think that, to me, that sounds like very much a manager who's gearing up for a major sale. I think the fact is that obviously they're pushing ahead with Wizza. If they can make Wizza work next week, then also bring in another striker, then I just think that facilitates Isak's move. I mean, I just honestly, the tone, the manner in what that Eddie Howe says, his language that he uses, to me, that is from a manager who expects to lose his striker. I think they're fighting a losing battle. It will cost a lot of money for Liverpool, but my word, that'll be a frightening strike force in my view. But honestly, I do think Howe's almost surrendering to the inevitable here.
I mean, he has dealt with it really, really well. And that's all we're going to do on that, because I really want to get to the boys' predictions so that we can hold them to account in May. Let's have a look at what you've both gone for to win the Premier League. John, can I tell you, Liverpool, yeah?
Yeah, Liverpool. I'm going Man City second. I know I'm going to be sort of kind of ridiculed for this one, but I'm going Man United third and Arsenal fourth. I just think United could have a good season here. I've been a little bit underwhelmed on Arsenal's transfer business. They've not solved one of the biggest problems, the left-hand side. Madueke, nice signing, good squad addition, but they need a superstar out there. They haven't got one.
James, your player of the season.
Yeah, I'd like to point out that we did pick these before the game, so that's not based on Mo Salah scoring a fantastic goal in stoppage time. But look, I just sort of feel that Liverpool are they're clear favourites for me. If they get Isak, even more so. And look, I mean, that guy Salah was so consistent last season. It's difficult to look anywhere else for me. I get the Florian Wirtz argument, but I just think in his first season, I mean, he looked very good tonight, but I just think in his first season he might need a little bit of time to adapt.
Now, you've both gone for Everton as your surprise. Is it a good surprise or a bad surprise, John?
Oh, good surprise. David Moyes, always respect him. I think he's a terrific manager, so proven, did a great job at West Ham. I think, last season laid the foundations, new stadium, exciting signings, Jack Grealish being at the helm, at the top of those. I think Everton are going to have a really good season. Going to be exciting, I think.
OK, boys, thank you. I'm afraid we're out of time. So if you missed any of the show, there is another chance to see the back pages tonight at hour. And the show is also available as a podcast. Just download Back Pages on Apple, Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And a reminder that an old favourite is back with a new look this weekend. Sunday Supplement returns at 9 a.m. on Sky Sports News. Join Dharma Sheth and his guests, Miguel Delaney, Charlotte Ducker and Jonathan Liu as they break down the biggest stories.